Last session, I asked for suggestions about what topic we would do today. And one suggestion came to discuss looking at the stories of how the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be, developed his qualities, his good qualities in past lives, and how we can use those stories in our own daily life. So, certain qualities were specifically mentioned, for example, uh, wisdom and generosity, compassion. So I decided that we would take a look at the first of the Jātaka Tales, Apanaka Jātaka, and then we'll discuss how we can use this kind of a story to develop our wisdom and in a practical way. 大家好，欢迎参加我们2025年语文组最后一次佛法开始讲座。在上次的佛法开始中，我征求大家提供今天的开始主题建议。获胜的题目是关于如何将佛陀在身为菩萨时所培养的慈悲、平舍和智慧应用于日常生活中。让我们来看第一个本生经故事，阿巴那卡本生经。So, in a past life, the Bodhisattva was born in Varanasi, one of the most ancient cities in India at that time. It was already developed. So he was born to a caravan merchant, and they weren't the only caravan merchant in town. It was quite a common thing, it being a trade center. So the Bodhisattva was quite skilled in all of the ins and outs of traveling caravans. For example, he knew how to raise horses. He knew how to arrange logistics, the point-to-point delivery, and all the timing. Because in India, of course, you have the rainy season, the hot season, and the cold season. So you're only able to travel for certain times of the year. And of course, certain roads might become blocked in certain seasons. Different peoples might be migratory, etc. So there are all kinds of obstacles that somebody who wants to engage in trade would have to be aware of. So the Bodhisattva is uh, skilled in all of these matters. So he was a very successful tradesman, caravan tradesman, but he wasn't just sort of just inheriting his trade from his parents. He had earned his stripes, you can say. So not all of the caravan merchants were as skilled as the Bodhisattva was. Some of them, so on one occasion, the Bodhisattva was planning a trip. He was going to arrange 500 carts worth of goods to travel to further northern area. And on the same day that he had set out, so you can imagine it took some time to prepare to get all of the goods and to get all of the horses and all of the drivers, etc. On the day he was to set out, he encountered an unexpected obstacle. Another one of the caravan merchants in town was to set out on the same day along the same trade route. So the Bodhisattva was surprised, and he immediately realized two things. The first thing is that this other caravan merchant is not very well qualified. And the second thing is that the road will not bear 1,000 carts and to travel on them at the same time. So he went and he put the situation directly to the other caravan merchant. Look, if we both leave today, we're not going to be able to make a successful journey. So one of us should leave immediately, and the other one will wait 6 weeks. So I'll give you the choice. So the other caravan merchant, he considered what would be better. And he had for various reasons, he thought that it would be best to go first. for example, if he were to go first, then the road would be fresh. There wouldn't be all these hoof prints in the road. And also there would be lots of vegetation along the sides of the road for the cows to eat. And when he arrived in the market towns, he'd be able to negotiate his own prices for his goods. And so as he considered, he thought, yes, it's better to leave first. Now, the Bodhisattva, on the other hand, he disagreed, but he didn't say anything. In his mind, he was thinking, if I go, whoever goes first, then they'll have to waste a lot of time haggling for prices in the market. And the road won't be prepared. If another caravan goes first, the road will be flat because all of the cattle will have trampled it. All of the oxen will have trampled it flat. And so he was thinking it'd be better to go second, but he kept his peace. And finally, the other caravan merchant said, "I wish to leave today." And so the Bodhisattva was secretly very happy about that, but he didn't say anything. He just agreed and said, "Okay, then I will leave in 6 weeks." 在过去的一生中，我们的菩萨出生于瓦拉纳西的一个上对家庭中。当时，瓦拉纳西是印度次大陆的贸易中心，许多家族都从事相同的商业运输行业。菩萨是一位精通商队的专业人士，他了解最佳的运输路线、点对点的物流、公司的调度、商队维护和牲畜的养护。然而，并非所有的商人都拥有同样的能力。有一次，菩萨计划带领一支由500辆牛车组成个长队，载着货物从城市出发进行长途旅行。在他计划出发的那天，他遇到了另一件出乎意料的事件。有另一位商人也将要同一天早上走同一条路。菩萨立即明白了两件事：这位商人领队能力不足，且这条路线上资源不足支持1000辆牛车同时通过。因此，他提出让对方选择是立即出发，还是等6周后再出发。这第二位商人看到了先行出发的优势，他的牛车可以顺利地走在人畜不多的路上，他也可以在集市上为自己定价为自己的货物定价等等，而菩萨也看到了先行的缺点，但他等待着对方的决定。当第二位商人宣布他希望立即出发时，菩萨便同意了。So the first caravan set off without any incident. Everybody had been prepared, and they traveled to. As they were traveling, after 1 or 2 weeks, they encountered a vast desert. And so as they continued to go through the desert. About halfway, maybe about 10 days into the journey, 2 weeks into the journey, they reached the middle of the desert, and they suddenly encountered another cart driver coming from the other direction. So this driver, he had quite a striking appearance, wearing white clothes, and the cart wheels were all muddy, and his hair was all wet. He and all of the others accompanying him, they were wearing water lilies and lotuses. And so the caravan members that were traveling with the Bodhisattva, they were a bit surprised, and they asked, Sorry, this is not the Bodhisattva's journey. This is the other caravan. So the other caravan driver was surprised, and the other members were surprised, and they asked, "Is it raining where you came from?" And this mysterious driver said, "Sure, of course. Up ahead, just over the hills there's a land where it rains all year round. There are ponds and there's a forest. You can go swimming. So there'll be no shortage of anything once you get there. You're almost there." Uh, so they took him on a tour around all of the different carts, and they introduced him to all the caravan members and what they were doing. And after he saw all of this, gave them some advice. He said, "Look, now you're so close, you're almost there. If you get rid of all of this extra water, if you dump out the extra water, then your caravans will be able to travel more quickly, and you'll be able to reach the land, this sort of oasis before tomorrow morning." So the caravan driver thought about it, and he said, "Yeah, I don't want to spend another night in the desert." So he took this mysterious caravan driver's advice, and they continued on. Now, um, unfortunately, the advice was not good, and so when nightfall came, they realized that they would not be able to reach the oasis, and so they didn't have any water. They were thirsty, they were exhausted, they were forced to camp where they might. And camping there, they just set down their carts and fell asleep. Now, now the previous caravan driver came back, and it turns out that he and his friends, they were demons in disguise. They were yakas in disguise. And so they came back in their true form at night. And because the caravan members had been so exhausted and they had not expected any incident, they were completely unprepared, and the yakas were able to finish them off uh, and put an end to that caravan. 所以这支省队就顺利出发了。结果他们来到了一片广袤的沙漠，那里住着非人。尽管故事没有提到这个事实是否广为人知，虽然这位商人并非以聪明著称，但他已知道在穿越沙漠之前，必须尽可能的多装载饮水。在行进了1、2周后，他又走到了这趟旅程的中途。那天一早，他们遇到了一辆美丽的白色篷车，有一位相貌出众的车夫驾驶，他、篷车以及随行的12名随从，从自头到脚都是湿的，他们身上装饰着莲花和睡莲。所以，商队商人惊讶地问他们是否来自下雨的地方。神秘的车夫回答说：“没错，前方是一个千年累月都常下雨的国度。”在讨论了商人的货物后，车夫建议他放掉所有的水，以减轻牛车重量，这样他们能在夜幕降临前完全穿越沙漠。商人领导满心感谢，并且听从了车夫的建议，放掉了所有的储水。不幸的是，他们并没有在夜幕降临前到达沙漠的尽头。商队只好在精疲力尽与口渴中被迫扎营。当天晚上，车夫和他的随从 以及他们真正非人鬼怪形态返回，并迅速解决了这些毫无防备的相对受害者。So in the meantime, the Bodhisattva thought, okay, so I've lost 6 weeks from my trade plan, 6 weeks from the season, but I have 6 weeks to prepare, so I better make use of that time. And so he did all he could to prepare for the journey to make it more efficient. And when the 6 weeks were up, his caravan also departed without incident. So he and his 500 carts, they also arrived in this desert. And so when they arrived in the desert, and they met the same mysterious cart driver, mysterious, and his friends. So there were 12 of them, it mentions. And so the cart driver similarly advised, who's all wet and he's garlanded with flowers, the cart is all muddy, and he mentioned up ahead there's a rainy country. It's an oasis, and once you get there, you won't need any of this heavy water you've loaded up. Then you should dump the water and try to go faster. Try to reach that land before dusk. Then you can avoid spending one more night in the desert. The Bodhisattva thought about this for a very short time, and he decided, no, until I see a water source, I'm not going to get rid of any water. So you can get lost. So he told the caravan rider, the mysterious driver, to leave. And his caravan continued on slowly, but he could hear some grumbling in the back. Now the other members of his caravan, they were a little upset. They thought, we don't want to spend another night in this desert. We don't know what you'll encounter at night in the desert. So we would prefer to try to finish this journey as quickly as possible. So just dump the water and go. When the Bodhisattva heard this, he stopped. He called a halt to all of the carts, and he held a meeting to discuss the issue. So he said, look, if there were rain up ahead, wouldn't there be rain clouds? Wouldn't there be thunder or lightning? We don't see any kind of evidence of rain. And so when he sort of got them to think about the situation more calmly, they all agreed, and they kept on going slowly, carefully, until finally they reached the remnants of the previous caravan, which had been abandoned. There were just the empty carts and some bones there. When they reached that point, they decided, we better camp here for the night. And so they stopped and they set up a guard for the night. They were quite worried. And not only that, they took the spare parts from the previous caravan. They repaired their own carts. And they swapped out the less valuable goods, and they took whatever valuable goods were in the previous carts. The night passed without incident, and they were able to complete their journey. With 此同时，菩萨审视了他们行程计划，他延迟了6周时间，必须加以利用。当地中有出发的，并到达大沙漠中不斗时，他也遇到了同样的伪装的非人鬼怪。他们同样的声称前方有池塘、森林和雨水，但菩萨立即意识到3件事：首先，那片区域众所周知是荒无人烟、没有水的沙漠。如果有这样的绿洲，他在规划路线前肯定会听说过。其次，这车夫的眼睛是红色的。第三， 也是最令人怀疑的是，它没有任何影子。因此，菩萨昭告别人车夫，请他们离开，并表示他找到新的水源之前，他不会放掉自己的储水。别人乖乖离开了，但不久后，上队的其他成员开始抱怨，既然前方有水，所以不应该载着这些沉重的水而拖延行程。菩萨听到了这些议论后，便召集了一次会议，许多人赞成把水放掉以加快速度。然而，菩萨通过仔细观察天后，得出前方并没有任何会下雨的迹象的，像乌云或雷电，而说服了那些有异议的成员。他们继续缓慢行程，遇到了前一支上队所遗留的车程，便在那里扎营过夜，并安排了防御警戒。他们修整了自己的车队，并收出了废汽车上所遗留的商品，终于顺利的完成了游程。So that's the first Jataka story. For those of you not familiar with the Jataka have the verses are they're in the Sutta Pitaka. The story and the explanation, they come in the commentary. So we have the commentary gives this long story that I just told, plus some explanations. Now, when we look at these stories, it's important to remember that for 2,000 years, they've been taught to children in Buddhist countries. And so, for example, if you're born in a different country, you may have learned a different set of stories. I know in those coming from a Chinese background, you have different kinds of, for example, 成语故事. For me, I grew up in a Christian background. I learned about Moses escaping from Egypt, leading the Jews out of Egypt, crossing the Red Sea, etc. So we have a different store of stories in our minds. Now, usually, whatever stories a child will hear, at first they easily will believe the story, and as they grow up, they start to have some kind of doubts about it. Well, did this really happen? What does the story mean? And as they grow up, their understanding of the story will change. So, as adults, if we hear a story, sometimes we want to see some kind of practical use. We have this attitude, this story was a waste of time, or this story was a very useful story. We have some kind of angle at it. Whereas somebody who's learned it as a child, they've sort of added the meaning as it applied at different stages in their life. And so they've used their own wisdom to make the story useful. So in the same way, with these stories, whatever their intended meaning, which we later in this talk we'll look at one of the suttas that has been linked to the story in the commentary. But aside from that, we want to gain some benefit from it. We have to try to see what we can take from it according to our own understanding and experience. 值得注意的是，2000年来，这些故事已在佛教国家中一代一代的传承给孩子们，而根据你出生的地的不同，你可能听到了一个全然不同的故事。比如， 我说到了摩西带领他的犹太子民逃离埃及的故事。年幼的孩子会一开始就很自然地将故事信以为之，后来开始质疑故事是否真实发生过。随着他们渐渐长大，这个故事会一直铭刻在他们的脑海中。他们将学从汲取教训。有时，作为成年人，我们迫切地期望看到故事的实际效应，但是否有实际应用面却取决于我们自身的生活经验和分析能力。So when we look at the story, we can see, if we just look at the framework of the story, and in that life, the Bodhisattva was a caravan driver who was extremely skilled in his profession. And he took appropriate preparations, and he knew from whom to take advice and from whom not to take advice. Whereas the other caravan driver was incompetent. He was not completely incapable of leading his caravan across the desert. So if we want to take something useful from the story, we can start from that simple point, this point of being capable and careful with our planning, capable at our profession, which are qualities that are also mentioned in other suttas. For example, in Karaniya Metta Sutta, we have Sakko or capable is one of the qualities to be developed. 例如，这个故事展现了菩萨如何在世俗生活中去圆满智慧。从故事的叙事框架以清楚地表明，菩萨在其职业领域中所表现的出色专业。他根据过去的经验制定了适合的计划，而且不听从误解的建议。故事以不容误解的方式呈现，而另一位商队的领队却不适合领导500辆火车的商队。如果我们想从此故事中汲取一些有用的知识，我们可以借鉴这些原则来考量在现实生活中所发生的事情。So just an example of the kind of problem that has come up in recent history. Recently, there was an issue in southern China where the local government has decided to implement a mosquito control plan. Especially, they were worried about the spread of a virus called chikungunya. So they adopted a variety of measures. For example, they have put some kind of a mesh over the sewer grates to prevent any kind of mosquitoes that might hatch from flying out from the sewers. They've dug up any kind of stagnant water, or they've emptied out any stagnant water from pots, or they've raised up any sort of small ponds and things like that. And they also implemented widespread pesticide spraying. So at first, the people reported, yes, there are much fewer mosquitoes now. But after 1 or 2 weeks, they found there were more mosquitoes than ever before. And so it turned out that what had happened was, yes, the spraying had killed the mosquitoes, but not only that, it had killed spiders and other creatures that eat mosquitoes, like praying mantises or mosquito fish. All of these creatures had died, and the mosquitoes were able to breed much more quickly than these other creatures. So they recovered more quickly, and they didn't have these other natural checks in place. And further, some of the other steps, other measures backfired as well. So when they covered the sewers with the mesh, but then when in rainstorms, the sewers started to overflow. The storm sewers overflowed, and the streets became flooded. 最近，中国东南部一个情况让很多人感到沮丧。为了控制疾病传播，当地政府实施了一项大规模的灭蚊计划，并启用了各种方法，用密网覆盖下水道隔山，以防止蚊子飞出；平坦了累水的池塘，并大规模的喷洒杀虫剂。居民报告说，起初蚊子确实减少了，但1周左右后，蚊子比以往任何时候都要多。不仅如此，下水道被堵塞，暴水时，路面积水街道被淹。事实证明，尽管喷洒杀虫剂能杀死蚊子，但也杀死了以蚊子解决为食的其他生物，如蜘蛛与小型鱼类。由于蜘蛛鱼类种群的恢复时间比较长，喷洒杀虫剂对它们的伤害更大。So, can we take some lessons from the caravan story for this situation? And then I would suggest that depends very much on you, on your own wisdom, and how you view the story yourself. So just a few points, then just in terms of preparation. So if you are a Buddhist, of course you want to avoid getting into the situation. So you wouldn't take a job that would require you to kill a lot of living beings like mosquitoes or insects or something. And so also if you like have a good plan at your work, if you look at things in advance, what kind of difficulties might come, then you can avoid getting put in a situation where you even have to make this kind of decision at all. So in this case, we can imagine that the people who made the decision, probably they were not ecologists. They were just administrators. And so they were faced with a problem and somebody had suggested a solution and they took that advice and implemented it. 那之前的这个沙漠商会的故事是否适用于这种情况？我认为这取决于你如何理解这个故事。谈到蚊子的问题，如果你是一名佛教徒，你肯定会避免从事需要杀害数百万昆虫的工作。透过周详的评估，你也许能避免自己陷入这种艰难抉择的境地。很可能当初决定喷洒杀虫剂的是行政官员，而非生态学家。因此，懂得采纳谁的建议，忽略谁的谏言，也至关重要。So if we go back to the story with the caravan drivers, now the second caravan driver, caravan leader, he was considered to be incompetent. But if you look at the situation from another perspective, if there had not been any kind of demons hiding in the desert, demons with magical powers, then he would have been able to go across. He would have been able to lead them across and finish the trade route. And so sometimes until these kind of unforeseen circumstances come up, we don't really know about somebody's ability and their preparation. So you can usually this kind of thing comes from experience as well, not just planning, but also from experience. You can take the example of a banker in 1927. Even the most incompetent of the investors if you were in America in 1927, they made a lot of money. And this is one of the problems why they had the big stock market crash, because everybody could just invest as the market was expanding so fast. But after 1930 and the market suddenly changed, suddenly crashed, then you could really see, could somebody adapt or not to this really difficult circumstance? So it would take a lot of skill to navigate the markets in that kind of situation.回到之前的故事，尽管那个商队领队描述为无能不是人，但如果没有沙漠中的非人鬼怪的出现，他也能顺利的完成旅程。通常我们在面对这种突发的危险时，如能综合经验并加以现实分析，就能发挥作用。例如，1927年的一位无能的投资银行家可能看似非常成功，但到了1930年代，他是否拥有适应市场突发变动的真实能力会显现出来。So I'm not giving advice here on management or something like that, or about decision making. We're really trying to see more generally how we can take some kinds of lessons from these Jataka tales. Um, so we also face various dangers too, as Buddhists, as we face various spiritual dangers, depending on whom we associate with and the different places we go or where we live. So just for one thing, it's really important for us to choose a kind of job that counts as right livelihood. And so there are various sorts of professions listed for lay people that are not suitable, including those that would involve killing living beings. For monks also, we have similar list of things. For example, uh, monks are not allowed to live by um, telling fortunes and things like that, or giving horoscopes or palm reading. All of those things are not allowed for monks to do. The Visuddhimagga also gives a list of places where monks shouldn't go, and it's, there are various places on the list, but basically the principle is that you should examine whether the place to go or the person you associate with, would that lead to your moral qualities and your mental development to decline or not? And if it would if those to decline, then that place is not suitable to go to or to live in, and those individuals are not suitable to associate with. 我举这些例子，并不是为了传授管理方式和原则制定，而是为了让我们从半圣经的故事中能够现实生活中受益，提出一些建议。在精神层面上，我们的德行也许会面临挑战，这将取决于我们与什么人交往，以及我们将去往何种处所。在我前面所举的例子中，如果你是佛教徒，选择符合正命的工作至关重要。进行讨论列举了三路不应涉足的场所与不应结交之人。其基本原则是注重所要访问的地方处所或某人交往是否会导致自身的 道的品质和心智发展的下降，那么他就应该尽可能的避免。So I mentioned earlier that we would be looking at another part of the commentary. So the commentary cites a sutta that is also in the Anguttara Nikaya, so it occurs in the commentary, but also in the Anguttara Nikaya, and it's called Apanaka Sutta. So today we're talking about the story Apanaka Jātaka, and this is Apanaka Sutta. I didn't explain totally about the Jātaka structure. The Jātakas normally have the verses, but it also explains about the story of the past and how the Buddha is using the story to teach in the present. So this explanation comes at the end. The Bodhisattva is giving some instructions in the present. The Buddha is giving some instructions in the present. So what we'll do we're not going to analyze the sutta. I'm just going to chant the Pali, and we're going to display on the screen the English and the Chinese. The English translation is by Bhikkhu Bodhi. 我们今天讲的这则故事的注释译文其实还挺长的，其中一部分引用了藏族部如此本身故事同名的一篇经文《阿帕拉卡经》。现在我将以巴利文诵出这部经，诸位可能同步观看屏幕上显示的英文或中文的翻译。Tihi bhikkhave dhammehi samanagato bhikkhu appannakapatipaddang patipanno hoti yoni chasarada hoti asavahanang kayaya katamehi tihi. Id bhikkhave bhikkhu indriyesu guttadvaro hoti bhojane matanyo hoti jagaryang anayuto hoti. Katancha bhikkhave bhikkhu indriyesu guttadvaro hoti. Id bhikkhave bhikkhu chakkhuna rupang disvana namidettagahi nananyubhyanjanagahi. Yadvarikaranamenang chakkundriyang sangvitang viharantang abhinjado manasa papaka kusala dhamma anvastadeyang tassa sangvaraya patipajjati rakkati chakkundriyang chakkundriye sangvarang apajjati. Sotena saddang sunva ghanena ghandang ghayanva jivha rasang sayinva kayena potambang pusinva. Manasa dhammang vinyaya nanimittaggahi hoti nanabhunanjagahi. Yadvarikaranamenang manindriyang asangvutang viharantang abhinjado manasa papaka kusala dhamma navasteyang tassa sangvaraya patipanchati rakkati manindriye sangvarang apajjati. Evam ko bhikkhave bhikkhu indriyesu guttadvaro hoti. Katancha bhikkhave bhikkhu bhojane matanyo hoti. Id bhikkhave bhikkhu patisankayoniso ahang ahareti nevadavayana madayana mandanayana vibhusanaya. Yavadevi mastakaya satitya yapanaya vihingsu paratya brahmacharya nugahaya. Iti puranancha vedanang patihankami navancha vedanang nupadasami yatra cha me bhavisati anavanjata tapasiharo sati. Evam ko bhikkhave bhikkhu bhojane matanyo hoti. Katancha bhikkhave bhikkhu jagaryang anayuto hoti. Id bhikkhave bhikkhu divasang chankamanena nisajjaya avareyang dhamme chittang parisodhiti. Rathiya patamang yamang chankamanina nisajjaya avranehi tamehi chittang parisodheti. Rathiya majjimang yamang dakinena pasena sihasayang kapeti. Pade padang achadhaya sato sampajano uttana sanyang manasikaritva. Rathiya pachimang yamang pachuttaya chankamanena nisajjaya avaraniye hidame chittang pariyosodheti. Evam ko bhikkhave bhikkhu jagriyan anayuto hoti. Imehi ko bhikkhave tihi dhammehi samanagato bhikkhu apannakapatipadang patipanno hoti. Yoni chasa radha hoti asavanam kayaya. So that's it for our final talk. So I'd like to take this chance to thank all of those who helped us a lot. So it's been an experiment to prepare all of these talks, and especially I'd like to thank Sister Janice for help, and Brother Jesse, and Sister Paulina, and Sister Melody, and all of the members who helped with the translation and the editing for the video captions, and etc. So it's been a lot of work behind the scenes because we have uh, just a lot of things to manage and to get everything between the different languages and the different time zones. Also, I'd like to share merits with our friends in Nauyana. 8 monks passed away. One is still in critical condition after the cable car accident, the funicular accident, on the 24th of September. And we share merits with them. And we also share merits with all of our past relatives, all beings capable of sharing in those merits. We wish they may all be happy, healthy, peaceful, and content, and swiftly attain the peace of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. 我想借此机会感谢所有的本次语就佛法讲座而辛勤付出的山友们，Janice 师姐、Jessie 师兄、Paulina 师姐、Melody 师姐，以及所有的参与翻译、校对、影片文字编辑的法友同仁。我也想为9月24日在龙树林缆车事故中不不幸往生的诸位长老比丘，以及我们所有的已故的亲人一起分享功德，愿彼等离苦得乐，身心安泰，速证涅槃寂静。萨嘟萨嘟萨嘟。
Thank you, Bante, for your teaching today. May we open the floor for today's questions, please? You may submit a question through Zoom Q&A or chat, and please state your question clearly and concisely. The organizer will respond to all the questions within the available time, and any unanswered question will be answered in the coming teachings.
So anyone to ask the question can raise the hand.
Anyone would like to answer question? Have any question? You can raise your hand, and we will unmute you and allow you to have question to Bante. So it doesn't look like we have any question, Bante. So may Bante lead us in making aspiration and sharing merit, please. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Idam me punyang
Idam me punyam
asavakaya
asawakaya
aham hotu.
vaham hotu.
Idam me punyang
Idam me punyam
nibbānassa
nibbanasa
paccayyo hotu.
pachayo hotu.
Mama punya bhagam
Mama punya bhagam
yambasatanam
sambasatanam
bhajami
bhajemi
te sambe
te sabe
me samam
me samam
punya bhagam
punya bhagam
labantu.
labantu.
Sadhu,
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 sadhu.
sadhu. Thank you again, Bante, for your teaching. Bante, please feel free to leave Zoom at your convenience. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We have a few announcements to make. Next week, we will have Sada Kumara Bhivamsa's teaching, The Buddha and His Great Disciple. On fourth grade disciple, Venerable Mahakassapa, Cycle 3, lessons 30. It will be 1 hour earlier than today's schedule, and on Saturday, October 11, evening, and in US, and Sunday, October 12 morning in Asia. Sincere thanks to Sister Paulina Su and Sister Melody Tang leading the effort for English and Chinese captions. To Venerable Jinaratana teaching, the caption videos are available on Pa'ao Georgia YouTube now. Today is our last lessons of the 2025 Pa'ao Vasa Zoom's teaching series. We will launch a bilingual study group. Exact schedule and details to be announced soon on our website and our Facebook page. Please check out our YouTube channel and please follow us on Facebook. Any further suggestion or inquiries, feel free to email us. And if you would like to offer teachers allowable requisites or to support our monasteries, please use our PayPal accounts. There are two PayPal accounts. One is for teachers allowable requisites, and one is for monastery supports. And you can also you are also welcome to send a check as well. And thank you everyone for your time and participation. May all be well, healthy and happy, and have a wonderful moon festival. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.